Design Wishes by Pamela with the third and final part of the Reinventing a Project series. So I'm picking up with some of the design elements that I used, and these are the Prima Marketing metallic waxes um, that I just absolutely love. And if you watch my videos, you know that I have used these a lot. The colors are absolutely rich, and they dry permanent, which is great. But I just love the colors. These are the colors that I was working with for this project. But if you don't have them, you should. I've used them on some furniture redesign projects that I've done as well. So they work well on a variety of different materials. You just have to try them out and see what works best for whatever you're using. So if you don't have this product in your craft or maker supplies, I would definitely encourage you to get them. So just like I said, just showing you a little bit of what they are and what the type of colors that I've used for this project. So I use them in a lot of different ways in most of my projects. And for you probably saw earlier that I had the Tim Holtz pocket watch, mini pocket watch, and that's what it looks like right out of the package. But using the Prima Marketing metallic waxes, I totally transformed that pocket watch into a totally different color. And side by side, you can see how they're completely different. You would have thought that I purchased it for with that bronze tone, but I didn't. I used, again, the waxes that I am showing you, and I know this is a repeat, but in case you are watching this video first and not the earlier videos for this series, you get to see them one more time. So I just carefully layer the different colors, and I'm rubbing it against my hand to show you that it did dry completely permanent and it does not transfer. You got a little bit of a window to remove it if you make a mistake or you want to redo it, but it does dry nice and permanent. The sun face that you see there comes from the Alchemy paper collection that I just fussy cut. So another technique is using the glossy accents, and I may have showed this in the earlier videos for this project, but I wanted to show you how you get kind of like a three-dimensional effect um, on the paper, the cardstock. So if you want a little bit of highlight, a pop, you can see in the crown how it stands out a little bit more. You just use that tip on the glossy accent bottle, and you carefully outline and fill in the object on your paper element for that three-dimensional look. The other pieces I used are just some metal pieces that you see here on the front of the box, and I got that from my maker stash. You can see how I did use the glossy accents on the butterfly, and I popped that up onto the 2-inch circle that I had in the back, and I used some of the wax to distress the edges. I took some chain from my jewelry collection and I'm using it as an element within the box. And again, I applied the metal accents with a brad and also glossy accents that I just touched lightly onto the cardstock backing there, and then the metal piece. I also used the glossy accent on that eyelet for the chain. Here you see a dry fitting of the project. It's not completely done. You can see up in the right hand or left hand corner that I still have to do the reinforcement base, but I wanted you to see the sides. I used the Frank Garcia knob pulls from Prima Marketing. And let me give you some measurements on that designer paper for the mats. And then also the back of the box. Here I'm showing you that I attached the top finial piece that I created out of that wood piece, again using the Prima Marketing metallic uh, waxes, and then the crystal accent on top. So again, there's still some steps that need to be done. Definitely need to put that bottom piece to reinforce the bottom of the box, which I did. And it makes it a lot sturdier. And then I'll be able to permanently adhere the two pieces together. The inside tray and then the outer piece that you see with the cut opening. And I'm honestly going to be using Elmer's wood glue to glue in the bottom and the sides. I know it sounds kind of odd, but it holds really well, and I like that it's really, really thick. I don't have to do it on the back because I had already applied the double-sided tape. So I'm going to speed up the video. As you can see, I'm just painting down, brushing down that glue to make sure that I have a nice smooth surface and no bumps. Removing the double-sided tape off the back, and then I'm going to carefully feed that chain down through the hole that I made and slide the tray into the outer part of the box. And then I'm going to go and make sure that it is flush the way I want it, nice and tight. And then I am going to burnish this down really, really well. I don't want those sides to pop up. I don't want that back to pop up. I don't want that inner side piece to move at all. So I'm just using my bone folder and carefully going around all of the elements until I know that it's nice and tight and secure the way I want it to look. So I have a solid piece right now. The two pieces are now one. Just double checking one more time. You can never burnish enough. You want to make sure your adhesive is got a good contact. So again, like I said, that bottom solid piece that is going to be used or is being used as reinforcement, I need to attach it to make sure that it's securely and squarely on the bottom of the box. So I'm using some washi tape and I'm just applying it over the across the bottom and the sides, holding that base piece in place while it dries. And it shouldn't take too long to dry because I did use the Aleene's tacky glue. So it's going to dry fast, but I don't want it to shift at all during the drying process. So that's why I applied the washi tape to make sure it's nice and secure. Eventually, the bottom part will be painted black because I like to finish my projects completely. So trying out some design elements, and this is probably the longest part of the process, is playing with some of the designs that I'm using for a project. This one, I know for sure that I wanted the butterfly cut apart onto that strip that we added earlier, so that it floats up there in that corner. That I definitely wanted to do. So I went ahead and I used some of my liquid adhesive, which is the Aleene's tacky glue mixture I talked about, and some foam squares. So to pop up that cut apart that I did onto that strip. So I'm just applying the foam squares. I tried one and one wasn't enough. It was a little wobbly, so I put two foam squares there. And I'm sandwiching it in between that horizontal strip that we made and the 2-inch circle that I cut. And I did distress that 2-inch circle with some of the metallic wax that I showed you earlier. So the owl cut apart is something that I really liked. Earlier I showed you um, how I use the glossy accent to pop up a little bit of the details in that cut apart. And I'm just right now playing with different configurations on how I would place it. I had a wood block to kind of raise it up. I thought I would use. You can see it right there. I'm just working with it. And again, this is probably the longest part of the design of a project, is playing with your elements, and before you put them down permanently. It's almost like, you measure once, measure twice, cut once. Same thing when you're designing. You get your elements together and you just play with them and dry fit them before you add that adhesive. Because the worst thing you can do is just apply your adhesive, go with it, and then you have to tear it off and start all over. So dry fitting, playing around with your design elements and embellishments is definitely a good tip that I have for anybody doing a project. So these are the styrofoam heart halves, and again, if you watched the previous video, you know that I use the metallic waxes again to give kind of like a metal look to them. And I'm just playing around again and trying out different placements for my my embellishment pieces. If I like it, I'll just go back. I could watch this video and see where I placed it before, if there's a gap in the number of days or time and I forgot what I did. Sometimes I take photos of the overall look that I'm trying to achieve. And then when I go back to permanently add those embellishment or design pieces, I just refer to the photo for placement. Once again, just dry fitting that bottom section for the box. And then honestly, it all comes together. Creativity will take off, and voila, here is the final project. I can't tell you how pleased I am the way this turned out. Every piece turned out exactly the way I wanted. You can see from the original design, I switched up a few pieces. I've added some new elements and embellishments, but overall, I am really, really super happy how the project came together. And it only took a matter of days for the inspiration to come, and the box really turned out the way I envisioned it to be. There is the frame where a photo can be placed there, also a label, a place to put a small photo in the front, and this clip, this antique brass clip, this is the packaging for it. And I think the company is bcicrafts.com, and I've had it for quite a while. I believe it came from Tuesday Morning. And then it is a functional clip. So I made a little photo mat, and I'll give you the measurements for that. And the little jewel that hides the brad that holds the clip in place is just, I believe I got this from a scrapbook expo, but I had it in my stash and I used it. I did add some glossy accents to the back of that clip to hold it down too. These are Frank Garcia's memory hardware from Prima Marketing. Gorgeous. And that is what I used, if I didn't tell you before, for the sides of the box. There is that styrofoam heart. Hard to believe it's a styrofoam heart. And then I added a flower, but I distressed it. I distressed it again with my favorite metallic paste and waxes. Love them. And then that twine is from American Crafts. Really love it. Kind of gives you a little bit of texture. I wanted a little bit of texture onto it. The flower actually came from Jolie. And I think I have the packaging for you so you can take a look at that. The blue that you see there came from some chalk paint. There is that Jolie's flower. So pretty the way they are, but I did distress them. And then you see that detail here. It looks like rope detail. I took a piece of cording that was twisted, and I think it came off of a gift I received. I save everything. A lot of makers, I'm sure you guys are like that. I coated it with some Art Basic heavy gesso and let it dry. Then I applied my favorite go-to acrylic paint, Liquid Texas Mars Black acrylic paint. Let that dry. And then you guys know what I'm gonna say. Probably I use those metallic waxes again. Love them. If you get any, the colors that I use are your go-to. That's how that paper tube got its coloring as well. And so there, I just rubbed it on in different layers. So I took each color, rubbed it a little bit on until I got the look that I wanted to achieve. I absolutely adore. This is one of my all-time favorite uh, projects that I put together. If you like this one, then you need to see the vintage telephone project that I did, and I'll put a link in the description box, and you'll understand because I use basically the same colors and techniques with the little variants on that. So check out that video, but it couldn't come together more beautifully without the Stamparia's Alchemy paper collection. I truly love the products in the paper collections from Stamparia. Alchemy is one of my favorites. I held on to it till the very, very end before I used it. I wanted to make sure I put the right project with it. And now I'm going to show you the before and after. So this is what that box looked like before, and here is the after. Thank you so much for watching.